Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're stepping into one of the most misunderstood stories in the Bible, the Tower of Babel. It's more than just a tale about mixed up languages. It's about what happens when people choose pride over purpose. These early builders had one goal: let's make a name for ourselves. But God had other plans. We'll unpack what went wrong, what it means for us today, and how the second half of this chapter connects to a much bigger story, the lineage leading to Abram, who would become Abraham, the father of many nations. This episode is about building wisely, living humbly, and understanding how even when things fall apart, God is still setting the stage for something greater. Let's get into it. Genesis 11, modern-day interpretation. In the beginning of this chapter, everyone on earth spoke the same language and could easily communicate. As people moved eastward, they settled in a land called Shinar and decided to stay there. They said, "Let's build a city and a tower that reaches the sky. That way, we'll become important and stay together, instead of being spread out all over the world." They wanted to make a name for themselves. Their goal wasn't just unity, it was pride. They were trying to reach the heavens on their own terms, without God. But God saw what they were doing and recognized that if they could pull this off with one language, there'd be no limit to how far their pride might go. So he stepped in. He confused their language so they couldn't understand one another. They had no choice but to stop building and go their separate ways. That's why the place was called Babel, which sounds like the Hebrew word for confused. It became the moment when people began to spread out across the earth, forming different languages and cultures, just as God had originally intended. The rest of the chapter traces a family line from Shem, one of Noah's sons, all the way to Abram, who would later be renamed Abraham, the father of faith. We also get a glimpse into Abram's early life, his wife Sarai, who couldn't have children at the time, and his family's journey. They planned to go to Canaan, but stopped and settled in Haran instead. This sets the stage for the next part of the story, where God's plan starts to unfold through Abram. This is my interpretation of the text. Genesis 11 begins with the story of the Tower of Babel, where humanity was unified in language and location. On the surface, that sounds like a good thing, but their intentions weren't centered on God. Instead, they wanted to build a city and a tower that reached the heavens to make a name for themselves. Their goal wasn't unity and purpose. It was pride and achievement. God wasn't against their creativity or teamwork, but he saw where their hearts were headed. They were building something big for their own glory, not his. So he stepped in, not to punish, but to redirect. He confused their language, which forced them to scatter across the earth as he had originally instructed. In doing so, God reminded them and us that trying to elevate ourselves without him leads to division and disorder. The second part of the chapter shifts gears and walks us through a genealogy from Shem to Abram, later known as Abraham. It's more than a list of names. It's a reminder that God was still moving behind the scenes. Even though people had scattered, he was still weaving his plan, leading to a man who would become the father of faith. What we learn from this chapter is that God values obedience more than big accomplishments. He doesn't need skyscrapers to see our hearts. When we put him first, even the smallest steps can lead to the greatest impact. Here is a life example for our modern times. Think about the world we live in today. How often we chase after recognition, success, or status to make ourselves feel important. People want to build their own towers, whether that's a career, a following on social media, or a reputation that says, "Look at me." And while there's nothing wrong with building or succeeding, the problem starts when we do it without God. Now picture someone who slows down, prays first, and asks, "Is this what God wants in my life?" Instead of chasing the spotlight, They choose faithfulness over fame. That kind of person may not get the most attention, but they are building something stronger, a life that honors God, even if no one else is watching. This is a call to action for all of us. Let Genesis 11 be a reminder to check your motives. Are you building something with God or trying to do it all on your own? Take time to invite Him into your plans, your work, your relationships, your future. Because without Him, even the biggest tower will eventually fall. But with Him, even the smallest foundation becomes unshakable. As we move forward, let's be people who build with humility, not pride. Let's create lives that reflect God's name, not just our own. And let's trust that He's working through the details, even when we can't see the full picture. If this story speaks to you, like this video, subscribe for more faith-centered inspiration. Comment your thoughts and share this with someone who could use encouragement in the world. There's more ahead, so come back next time as we continue exploring the purpose behind every chapter.